Well, a really warm welcome to you all to Sponsorship Reworked. Today represents the 29th edition of our conference, each of which has enjoyed its own theme along the topical considerations of the day. So it's with really great pleasure, therefore, that I'm able to say for this conference today that we're exploring sponsorship and sustainability, predominantly through the lens of purpose and partnerships. Our case study presentations, discussions, panels and breakouts will traverse sustainability in all its forms: environmental, social and economic. I can genuinely say, as a 20-year veteran, and I know you're thinking it, and I of course was a child prodigy, I can honestly say though, I feel really proud that we've reached this point where purpose is central to sponsorship, and the outcomes of the work that we're all doing and delivering have the potential to be genuinely impactful at societal level. It feels like such a big journey that we've been on across this recent period of time. So what's in store today? Well, for starters, great speakers, no pressure speakers. Front row, I'm looking at you. We kick off today with a much loved contributor in Sandra Greer, and she's sharing a scoop with us, as she just described it to me, the exclusive findings from the Frontier survey with which we've partnered across spring. It gives us a great baseline to explore our discussions today and a framework of opinion that is invaluable to this conference. Her snappy segment dovetails straight into a return to stage for Kevin Peake after a 15-year hiatus. So that's pretty cool too. He's joined by Caro Evans from Cancer Research for Selecting with Purpose, which will be exploring how Race for Life is helping to drive purpose to the Standard Life brand. Which moves us neatly onto networking, which I appreciate is demonstrably and very rightly important to you all here. Our structured speed dating style session takes over the coffee break and gets that tricky business of getting those first conversations under the way, and it will certainly get tongues wagging. When we return from that, we'll be into our first panel, which is Rewarding Purposefully. And I'm not sure they're going to thank me for saying this, but the panel there brings with them about 80 years of sponsorship expertise. So a lot to look forward to, and a great first introduction to Andy Southerton, who is one of our guest moderators today. I think that promises to be a very punchy discussion. And what some of you might have seen in downloading the app is that we do have a participate session, which is polls that we'll be launching throughout today's discussions, which is your chance to have your say on the topics and items that we'll be covering. So we'll queue those up for you, and it's just a case of popping onto the app and giving your answer. And if we wanted to give that a quick go, and I may be putting myself in a difficult situation here, but the first poll is whether you're looking forward to your Think sponsorship experience. So kind of hoping we got a positive response there, but if you fancy giving it a try, that's a good one to start with. Our pre-lunch breakouts offer two very different but equally impactful demonstrations of sponsorship and sustainability. The multi-award-winning Sport Business United demonstrates the power of football and community. It's very innovative and a highly impactful campaign. And at the same time, in Breakout 2, we'll be exploring social and economic sustainability via Volunteer It Yourself, which is, in my opinion, a unique programme that has created opportunities, stories and outcomes that demonstrate not just the power of people, but the power of collaboration. At lunchtime, we've got a chance to explore the amazing spaces here at the Barbican in hopefully slightly smaller networking groups. The unique 23,000 square foot conservatory, just listed last month in Time Out as a hidden must-visit gem of London, will be set up with a small quiz for you to enjoy, and we hope you'll have the chance to really take a wander through what I think is one of London's great oases. Our post-lunch session focuses a little more internally. Lena Patel takes to the stage for Deloitte and will be sharing with us more about their purpose-driven, sustainability-focused partnership programme through an exploration of her partnerships and their partnerships with WWF and the Olympic movement. Our afternoon breakouts respectively put environmental sponsorship and DE&I into the spotlight with some really big picture thinking and two great ambitious projects. And then finally, a panel that I'm really looking forward to at the end of the day considers how what I think of as sponsorship's new guard and new investors, what role they play in pushing boundaries and spearheading change across our sector. So I hope you'll agree, plenty to look forward to. It's been quite a long road back to live conferencing for us all. And before I introduce our opening speaker, I did just want to extend my thanks to our long-standing, much-loved partners in CSM Live, Inkerman, 12th Man, ESSA, the UK Sponsorship Awards, and of course the Barbican as our venue host. We try to integrate our partnerships into the fabric of the event with the goal of enhancing the delegate experience, and those partnerships have been so valuable to us over the year, and we're really delighted to be back live and able to explore them again. And my second thank you goes to you all. It's brilliant to have had the support for this event from you. We're excited to have been able to put the programme together. It's brilliant to just see a room full of people to get back together again, and also to have our virtual contingent joining us remotely. That's another dimension to the evolution of Think Sponsorship that I'm very pleased and proud of. I really hope you're able to participate fully in all the sessions and the networking experiences today, and most of all, that you have an enjoyable and productive Think Sponsorship experience. So to get us started and kicked off, I'd really like to warm Natasha Harris to the stage. She's Director of Development at the Barbican and is going to give us an opening address.
Well, welcome to the Barbican. We are so delighted to be hosting the 2023 Think Sponsorship Conference. Thank you, Kat, and the rest of the Think team for partnering with us on what I know will be an insightful and rewarding day for delegates across many different sectors. So really, this is just a little bit about us. Many of you will know the Barbican, but perhaps for some of you, this is your first visit, and I really hope it will be the first of many. The Barbican is the largest multi-arts learning and conference centres in Europe and a creative catalyst in this destination city. We provide a platform for artists, audiences and communities to inspire, connect and provoke debate. And last year, just to give some stats, we had 1.6 million visits to the centre. We held over 3,400 events. We worked with over 2,300 artists, and we collaborated with 28 partners and associates. We are a unique space in London, designed as part of the Barbican estate, built after World War II when the area was completely devastated by bombing. And it was originally built as rental housing for professionals to encourage workers back to the city. And as part of that drive to rebuild central London, the City of London Corporation gifted this unique art centre to the nation. And we continue that legacy and are enormously proud custodians of it. And it's really thanks to the support of the City of London Corporation, who provide a third of our funding, and our corporate partners, members, patrons, major donors, trust and grants funders, and our visitors, that we're able to present such a rich programme of work. So in our hall, our music hall, from our resident orchestra, we have the London Symphony Orchestra, to contemporary stars such as Aphex Twin and Jose Gonzalez. And we also have in the theatre, there are sort of two spaces. The main theatre, and you can see here the brilliant image from RSC's My Neighbour Totoro, which is coming back again later this year. It's a space that allows international theatre, dance and performance by artists and companies who are really challenging the idea of what theatre can be. And in the Pit Studio, it's a flexible space, and it sort of champions emerging companies and artists. And in fact, from this Thursday, we have Olivier Award winner Giles Terrera's boldly inventive debut play, The Meaning of Song, so definitely worth booking a ticket. And in our gallery, currently, we have the portrait artist Alice Neal. This is the largest exhibition of her work in the UK, and her vibrant portraits capture characters of New York's underground cultures across the turbulence of the 20th century. And then we have our free gallery space, The Curve, where Resolve Collective have taken over to create a large-scale installation and public programme for visitors to inhabit and participate in. We have 3 cinemas spanning new releases, curated cinema, and our ever-popular family film club. And for the 3rd year running, we'll see our outdoor cinema returning to the Sculpture Court for 10 screenings in August, generously supported by Campari. So I encourage you to come back and join us for a cocktail. And into the hospitality of the Barbican. We have so many spaces, including, as Kat referred to earlier, our amazing conservatory, which you'll see over lunch. It's the second largest in London. It houses more than 2,000 species of plants and trees, as well as terrapins and koi carp. It actually was built to conceal the theatre fly tower, and it's used for events, weddings, public openings, art commissions, and host schools visits to learn from our gardeners about horticulture and sustainability. And finally, and most importantly, our schools and community work is a core part of what we do here at the Barbican, with over 38,000 under-25s accessing our £5 ticket scheme last year. And we're committed to keeping art and culture accessible for young people, including access to careers and opportunities to directly involve in our programming. We work with young artists, poets, producers, curators, and performers to ensure that we're nurturing the next generation to continue what we do here now. So that's it for me. I'm delighted Susie Sterling, my colleague, our Corporate Partnerships Manager, will join us later. And I just want to say thank you and have a really fantastic day.
Thank you, Natasha. And I must say, as a London-born individual, I feel I have a lifelong connection with the Barbican, but every single time I come here, it feels that I discover something new, if not even least just how to get into the building from a different entrance. So that's great to have had that context there. So I mentioned we'd be kicking off today's programme with exclusive findings from the Frontier23 survey. I'm delighted to welcome Sandra Greer to the stage, Insight Director at Dentsu Sports Analytics, who is the spearhead of the Frontier survey. When Sandra isn't garnering industry opinions, she's working with clients, focusing on insight, strategic planning, evaluation and performance measurement. She has an extensive industry knowledge of sports and entertainment, and I'm looking forward to her customarily punchy review of the data. So, Sandra, welcome to the stage.
Follow that. What an introduction. Thank you, Kat. And as Kat said, I always open up the conference with Frontier industry survey findings. Basically, you're the first to hear these. You're also first to hear the words Dentsu Sports Analytics, which is also launched today as well, but you're a little bit ahead of the game. It's not supposed to launch till midday Eastern time in America, so we're one up on them for that in that regard. So what we've done is combined with all of our Dentsu colleagues, which is a media agency, and all of my sports and entertainment insight colleagues across the world to come together as one brand in the area. It says sports, but it's sports and entertainment. It's just too long a word for us to actually put it together. And we're spearheaded by a great guy called Glenn Lovett, who I've worked with before. So looking forward to it. So back in real life, that's working, Mike. As Kat said, we've been working in studios, etc., for the past few years, and it's lovely to be back and actually seeing people here today. So I will get on with my punchy Frontier chat, as Kat said. So, hot off the press is this information. So, Frontier is an industry survey, so we go out globally to the industry, we ask people information on all different areas. And we've got over 366 responses across 30 countries, lots of different information. And what we do every year is we have some standard questions so that we look at trends, and I'm going to give you some insights into those. And then we also add additional topics that are topical at the time. And one of those is sustainability, ESG, in terms of linking with the rest of the conference today. What you'll see is a lot of different areas that people work in, so we get a collective response from different stakeholders. But also, you'll see we used to just do demographics, male and female. We've actually started to look at the diversity of our own industry as well. So we'll be looking at trends of that in the future, and I've got a little bit about that on some slides later on. But literally what we've also added in is whether people perceive themselves as an ethnic group in their particular country, because remember this is global, and also if they have a disability. So we've gone through a lot. We've had a couple of years pretty bad, and now we've got an economic downturn. So what's the industry thinking of what's happening? So what we do is we ask people about growth in the industry. Let's get my notes back. And what we've seen is after 2020 went down, not much growth was expected. It's actually went up in 2021, 22, but with the economic downturn, we've actually seen a few people say, well, it might not be as much growth as we're used to in the industry. We've just got to get used to that. And then what I've done here is we've been going for 8 years, we can now monitor quite a few trends. And what you can see, there's a few people saying, well, 12% might actually decrease in terms of the industry. But what we also wanted to do was we also asked people how valued the sponsorship industry was in the marketing, the media, the communications mix. And we've been doing this for some time in terms of how people understand sponsorship. Do they really understand how it works? And it was quite interesting to see that it was gradually being understood. And in 2020, about a third of the industry said that they felt that the sponsorship industry was highly valued. Only a third in the marketing mix. But as we've begun to see sponsorship get integrated into marketing, into the comms, into media, etc., it's actually become more valued. And now 48%, nearly half of the industry think that sponsorship is valued. So it's finding its place. I've been in the industry for 30-something odd years, but we're eventually finding our place in the industry, and it's there as a standard part. So what are we finding with the economy? So obviously people have got less money. We all know that as a consumer as well as in the industry. And what we found in Frontier was about 86%, nearly 90% said the industry needs to keep things affordable. Very, very affordable, because they need to keep their audiences, they need to keep their fans. We also ran in parallel at this time something called FanSpeed, which is our consumer-related platform. And when we were asking those people, we said, if you had 10% less money, what would you do with that money? And most of them were saying it depended obviously on people's financial situations, but literally they would be giving up perhaps buying as many clothes, going to the pub as much. But in our industry, what we found was people would be going on holidays, their lifestyle, that special holiday was still there. And also they'd keep up with some season ticket attendance and also streaming devices. So there's this balancing act that we're seeing in terms of budgets, and very important to try and keep that audience and your fans loyal to you. And then in terms of the industry, basically, brands are going to have less budgets. People are buying less, so they're going to have less budgets. So they're going to try and get more assets from the rights holders. Now, you've got to balance that as a rights holder. You say, well, hold on a minute, I think I can give you more, because if I give you more, then you'll stay with me, you'll see the benefits of it, etc. And also, there's that activation fees versus rights fees. That balance, again, is coming in terms of what people will be doing with it. Make sure that we can activate, get that audience engaged in order to, again, keep them loyal to your particular area. Remember, people have got a lot of things they can potentially do in their lives. So, the outcome of all of this in terms of what are you actually going to do with it is more leverage. So basically leverage, leverage, leverage. Everything you've got, make it work for you. So a lot of databases, CRM databases that people have, make sure you use them. Go out, contact people, get out there with information, get them engaged with you. We've got all the new technology. We've got the metaverse, NFTs, we've got streaming, we've got Netflix with all of these amazing content. Use content. I think leverage content in that respect. And also, very importantly, and what we're talking about today, a little bit more, is people's values. Things are becoming more important to people. Make sure you fit your audience to their values, their lifestyles, what they think is their purpose side. Make sure you do that and connect with them. So, sustainability. So we're all here today to listen to it. I'm sure there'll be a lot of definitions around it. We were only talking earlier about what is sustainability, ESG. What is it? You know, it covers so many different areas. And so we had a few different questions on Frontier in terms of this area. One of the questions I said we did each year is we do topical areas and trends. And for all 8 years, we've been asking people, what's the main sponsorship objective? And then what other objectives do you do? And the top ones have remained the same: brand awareness, audience reach, etc. But at number 7, might be number 7, but my God, it's grown. CSR purpose has grown from 22% to 47% as an importance of a sponsorship objective. It's now levelling off, linked back to my remark earlier about sponsorship being embedded and integrated. The same thing with purpose. It's just there now. It's something that people have to do, but they've got to make it authentic. It's risen 112% in terms of its importance, and something that obviously we're going to discuss a lot more today. So, does it work? It's got to, we all talk about it, we all want to do it, does it work? So again, from one of our more audience and fan-based studies, FanSpeed, we found that basically 66%, 2/3 of people, if a brand supported equality, then they would support that brand. They know, they understand that area, and also if they're more likely to notice you. But remember, you've got to get that right charity, you've got to get that right cause in this purpose element. Make sure it aligns with their values, etc. And again, we'll hear more about that today. But also, they might actually purchase from you at the end. That's not a bad figure. I'm sure that's not the same in advertising in that respect. But it's got to be authentic. We are beginning to see, particularly in the UK, and FanSpeed here was in a number of countries, we found a number of the audiences and fans beginning to get a little bit cynical with brands who are associating with different areas. Had to be authentic. They were saying, oh, they're just ticking a box. Because they're not that, they're actually just sponsoring something to make them look like that. So make it authentic in the way that you're doing it. How are we doing as an industry? How are we doing in this particular area of sustainability, etc., and all the different areas of purpose? So what we asked here was whether people felt that the sports and entertainment industry was actually using their platform and how well they were doing across all these different areas. And gender equality, race equality, LGBTQ rights, not too bad. But we're not particularly good at disability, environment, worker welfare, and age discrimination. So it's really, really quite small. And as someone standing up here, and you may have worked out if I've been in the industry for 30 odd years, I might be over 55. I know I don't look it exactly like Kat. We're not as old as we may feel. But only 12% of respondents were over 55 in our own industry. We've got new blood, we've got people coming through, but we've got to do more in these different areas in terms of actually making our own industry authentic in terms of purpose. So, I am a researcher. I'm going to put some measurement stuff up here. So, how do we measure success? I'm going to move on to the ESG area. Now, what we have here is how much data was used when people were actually informing their organisation as to what they should do in the sustainability ESG purpose area. Very sadly, only 17% used a lot of data and said that drove it, but good, half said that they did use some form of data in that respect. But it is a new area. You know, it's an area it's emerging, it's coming through. There's not a huge amount as there is in other areas of information. And so, okay, that's those figures. But let's learn a lesson. At the moment, less than 20% of people are very confident they can measure the business value of their sponsorship investments. That's their return. Not a KPI, not a social media metric, not a number of exposures, not any of that. The business objective of why you actually sponsored. Only less than 20% feel confident about doing that. So when we're getting now into a new area of sustainability, let's learn a lesson and let's put a framework together. So what we can see here is about 2/3 of the industry said, let's just get an industry standard. It may have to evolve because it's moving, everything's moving quite quickly. Things are coming into the parameters of it. And there's lots more information out there. There are companies trying to put this framework together. There's lots of indices. They need to evolve a little bit. And obviously, we're looking at one ourselves. So, yeah, this is basically really important. Let's learn the lessons of the past, new area, let's put a framework in place in order that people can make the right decisions and evaluate at the end if they worked, and to use that information to help it improve in the future. So thank you very much for listening. Short and sharp, Kat, topical, and hopefully have a great session across the day. Thank you.
Thanks, Sandra, and of course another punctually delivered set of data. Now, ordinarily I would invite questions for Sandra, but she has highlighted herself in that data the 112% rise on purpose-led initiatives, and our first case study of the day links in so beautifully to that I didn't want to interrupt our flow. So if you've got questions for Sandra, just hold fire on them, because after we've heard from our next speakers, we'll be all on stage for a proper sort of Q&A before the end of the session. But we'll move on now to inviting Caro Evans and Kevin Peake onto stage to share their case study presentation, which is around bringing the purpose back to the Standard Life brand via the Race for Life partnership. I'm really excited to hear more from both of them. So if you'll give a warm hand, we'll welcome them up to the stage.
Thank you for the intro. So as Catherine said, my name's Kevin Peake. I am Head of Brand and Sponsorship for Standard Life, the pensions and savings company, if you've heard of us. And I used to be the Marketing Director at Empower, where I had a big portfolio sponsoring Test Cricket, 2020, ITV broadcasts, you name it, we did it. And interestingly, last time I spoke at this conference was about 15 years ago. England were just about to enter playing the Ashes against Australia, which they won as one of the best ever test matches. So it seems serendipity that we're back again and England are about to play Australia in the Ashes this summer. So rush down to Ladbrokes because it's going to be a good England win. So that's me, and off to Caro.
Hi everybody, I'm Caro Evans. I'm Director of Partnerships at Cancer Research UK. The majority of my career has been in charity fundraising, and nearly all of it working in partnership to ensure that we're really maximising our impact. I've been at CRUK for about 10 years now. So we're going to talk through how to select with purpose. And today's agenda, so I hope this meets your needs, is a bit of an intro to Race for Life, to Standard Life and to Cancer Research UK. We're going to talk about our objectives and ambitions with this partnership. We're going to talk about finding the perfect sponsor, so what were the key criteria both for Standard Life and for Cancer Research UK. And the partnership is really new. We actually met each other first at the end, sort of autumn time. 2.5 months later, we were signed up as partners. And we launched in January. The partnership is ever evolving, so we're still developing how this is going to work in the future. And we'll talk to you a little bit about our future plans as well. So I'm not sure we need this slide after listening to Sandra. I just checked that I think our stats align, so that's good news. And I know that there are lots of experts in the room, but I thought it was just a really good chance to have a few stats just to remind us why charity partnerships are so good for business. So as you can see, 93% of employees believe that companies must lead with purpose. 90% of employees who work at companies with a strong sense of purpose say they're more inspired, motivated, and have a greater sense of loyalty. And consumers, and this is the one I checked, I think we're aligned here, are nearly 4 times more likely to purchase a purpose-led brand. And lastly, corporate reputation and performance really helps to achieve CSR and ESG objectives. And we see the outperformance in the stock market in relation to that there. So, why cancer, and why was Standard Life so keen to work with Cancer Research UK on Race for Life? Sadly, 1 in 2 of us will get cancer in our lifetime. So there won't be anybody in this room, sadly, who isn't affected, either friends or family. And you know, if you are going through that journey at the moment, then we send our very best to you. So that's the bad news, 1 and 2. The good news is that in the 70s, we've really moved on. So right now, 2 in 4 people will survive their cancer for 10 years or more. In the 70s, that was only 1 in 4. And we are very confident at Cancer Research UK that we can get that to 3 in 4. And we are making progress against some cancers. So, for example, the HPV vaccine, which we were part of developing, has seen instances of cervical cancer fall by 90% in that generation of young people who had the HPV vaccine, which is incredible. So there are some cancers where we're really seeing the end of them. Cancer Research UK is the largest cancer charity in the world dedicated to saving lives through cancer. That's our absolute mission, and that's at the centre of everything we do. Race for Life, as you see here, is an incredible mass participation event. We have over 260,000 participants every year. That's over 160 locations and 400 events each year. It's not just one distance, it's 10K, 5K, 3K. There's a pretty muddy obstacle course for kids. You can bring your dog along, you don't have to run, you can walk. And the whole point of Race for Life is to have an impact and help us beat cancer. And for Cancer Research UK, it really is the biggest opportunity for us to engage with new and existing mass audiences.
Okay.
I was just going to talk about the money that it's raised as well. Sorry, Kevin.
Go back.
So, Race for Life is 30 years old. We've got our 30th birthday this year, so a great opportunity to celebrate. And over that time, we've raised £940 million just from Race for Life. And obviously, that's from the participants, their friends and family. It's in tiny, tiny amounts. Small amounts of sponsorship, but over the 30 years, it's added up to an incredible amount of money.
So, Race for Life is 30 years old. Standard Life is nearly 200 years old. You know you're old when you don't have a logo and you've actually got a coat of arms, which is always quite fun with our IP lawyers in my monthly IP check. Is anyone ripping off our coat of arms around the world? So we do have a coat of arms, but we have changed our logo. And we are famous for some quite high-profile sponsorships. So we sponsored the Lions. We also sponsored the Ryder Cup. Because we're Scottish-based, headquartered, we sponsor anything to do with Scottish golf, and of course we sponsor anything to do with Andy Murray. So we wanted to try and come in and go, well, how can we actually really look back and rediscover our purpose? And the clue's in our name. Standard Life was set up nearly 200 years ago to provide the right retirement so people could have the right standard of life. And it's something we probably haven't made enough in our brand about how do we give people the right standard of life financially, but obviously with Race for Life, how can we take that broader as a purpose element? So we're very proud of our previous sponsorships, but we started thinking like we need to move it on. We need to try and find something to bring the brand to life rather than just doing more golf sponsorships. Sorry if there's anyone selling golf here today. And the really important thing about our brand and about heritage brands, and this is a genuine data, but I've left the attributes off the bottom, is that heritage brands trade off the stuff at the far right. Some very big attributes about heritage, about trust, and they're great things to have in your brand attribute, and these are some of the Standard Life scores. But we use a tracking study called BrandView, and we can also see these is exactly the same for WH Smiths and for Boots and for all other financial services. When you come down to the far end, you start to see some real declines in smaller things like innovation and stuff. And what we want to try and do in our brand is move it from what we call expert steward. So I'm happy with Standard Life. It's been around for 200 years. It's going to look after my savings and pensions. To be something more like champion the cause and to make it more active. So what we're trying to do is go from a brand that's about passive values to a brand that's about active values. And the reason why that's important is because At the far end, it's brilliant for retaining customers, but this end, it's about attracting new customers. So new customers are looking to see what role, what purpose, how are you going to attract everything that was just said in the previous presentation. So we need to build a sponsorship around symbols of the future, not symbols of the past. And this chart really is the basis of our brand strategy, but it could be the basis of any heritage brand. So what are our partnership objectives? Well, as you heard, we want to try and build a brand around the fact that we are for everyone. And the great thing about Race for Life is even I am doing it. So my team actually signed me up for the Muddy 5K. So it is available. You don't have to run it, despite the name. You can actually walk it, you can crawl it, and it's for everyone. And that's why it's a great basis for our brand, because our brand is for everyone. It doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor. We're not a sophisticated financial services. We're a brand for everyone, and Race for Life gives us the opportunity to bring that to life. The other thing about our brand, though, is that while we've got that big brand purpose, we actually have a small brand purpose as well, which is a bit more niche, which is you can actually access your pension early before the age of 55, which is the legal limit, if you have a terminal disease or something. So for us, it was actually quite important that a lot of the calls we get into our call centre are for people phoning to say they've got less than 12 months to live. And that's why we signed up not only with Cancer Research UK, but we've also got another partnership deal with the Samaritans. And we're trying to work to show how we can build better empathy into our call centres, but also bring that to life through sponsorships. So on a big brand scale, we're after everyone, but on a small brand scale, we're also trying to highlight that we actually have to look after customers, and probably a huge number of our calls as a pension company are about people wanting early access to their pensions. So this gives us a platform to try and show that work a bit more.
Thanks. So, as I said, Race for Life is our single biggest activity to connect with new and mass audiences. It's really core to our mission. So it's really important that we got absolutely the right partner. So we thought really hard about what is it that we want our partner to help us achieve? What does it need to do for Race for Life? So critically, we needed a partnership that was going to really, over the long term, help to maximise the impact for both of us, to really shout about Race for Life, to be really ambitious about building the impact that Race for Life can create. We really wanted a partner who could encourage their audiences, whether that's customers or staff or business-to-business stakeholders, to participate, to volunteer, to really get into Race for Life and be part of it. And then the final objective for us was to help us make the experience of taking part as good as it could possibly be on the day for participants. We want them to keep coming back, keep enjoying Race for Life, bringing people with them. And all of that experience is not just on the day, it's all the way through the campaign, through the digital comms to what happens on the day itself. So a little bit about our previous sponsor. So Race for Life was sponsored by Tesco for 21 years. I was talking to Andy about it just now, and he said, was it a bit of a squeaky bum moment? And I said, yeah. So we're still working with Tesco. We have a great relationship with them, but they changed CEO. They'd done 21 years. They were looking for a new direction. So we found ourselves with no headline partner. You know, two sides of the coin, really. A great opportunity to think, well, where can we take Race for Life now? What could a new partner do for Race for Life? But how are we going to find the right partner who would help us fulfill those objectives that we just talked about? So, how do we go about finding a new partner? A little bit about how we work at Cancer Research UK. So we do have a new partnerships team, our acquisition team, and they are dedicated to finding new partners. So we talk to as many suitable prospects and agencies as possible. We set a deadline of the end of October, so that gave us about 8 months to find a new sponsor. And we set that deadline because we absolutely wanted whoever came on board as a sponsor to be able to get maximum benefit from the partnership. We were quite broad in our approach. We didn't necessarily want, you know, another Tesco. We wanted a partner that could do all of the things that I talked about in those objectives. And when we think about potential partners, we think really holistically about how we're going to create a really mutually beneficial sponsorship. And we have a great range of things we can offer, whether it's through TV, celebrity, entertainment. so we have a broad scope of opportunities. We also got an agency on board as a backup to the team, and then we thought we just wanted to hit every possible angle. So we did our first ever LinkedIn advert. And Kevin can explain a bit more about that with the romantic picture of Whitby Abbey. Over to you, Kevin.
Yeah, so if you didn't know, this is Whitby Abbey, a scene of inspiration for Bram Stoker's Dracula. And despite the fact we all in the sponsorship industry like to believe we do lots of analysis, lots of data, I was actually sitting watching the sun go down, and I was a bit bored waiting for the sun to go down, so I started looking at my LinkedIn profile and found this and thought, actually, it was great. And to be honest, I was on garden leave from my previous job, so I kind of contacted Race for Life and said, I might be interested in this. And interestingly, they didn't actually contact me for about 2 weeks because they thought it was a scam. So, so you do need a bit of luck in sponsorship. So you do need the data, you do need the analysis, but where would we be without Dracula?
So, yeah, we did think it was a suspicious phishing email, but we did follow up. So 2 weeks after that initial meeting, Standard Life expressed their formal interest in sponsorship. And then we sat down for a sort of second date and had a brainstorm session, thinking about all the ways in which we needed to understand each other to make sure that we could create a really strong shared purpose. So this is what we came up with, and these were really critical and sort of chimed for both of us. So Race for Life and Standard Life, as Kevin has said, are both really inclusive. They really are for everybody. We were really certain that together we could be really, really impactful, and that we could really up the ante on Race for Life and do even more to help beat cancer. And then Better Futures felt something that we could really get behind, so really passionate about empowering people to create better futures. So those were our headlines. We also talked in a lot of detail about, you know, the branding across the campaign. We have brilliant TV, which you'll see a bit of in a minute. We have great social and email campaigns. And we knew that we would really be able to get behind that sense of purpose together. So those were our objectives. And that really was the kind of head bit. That's why it worked. But there was a lot of heart in the way this partnership came together as well. And the real clincher was a meeting that I sadly didn't go to. I'm still sad I wasn't there that day, where the team went to meet Standard Life. We were talking to other potential partners as well, and every single person from Standard Life who came into that room to talk to us told us about their personal connection with cancer. And Kevin's boss, Sangeeta, is the Chief Marketing Officer, and she told us that her dad was a renowned oncologist, and how cancer had always been a massive part of his life. She brought her family album to show us. And the team came away absolutely buzzing. And I think it was at that point we definitely knew we had found the right partner. We had the right objectives. We knew we could really align on those. So that was the head part, but there was really the heart there as well. We absolutely knew that Standard Life were going to care about our mission.
We, at Standard Life, we pitch every week for big workplace pension schemes. They're usually worth about £1 billion a time. And I think for the pitch for this, where we were told we were up against other people, was probably one of the most nervous ones we had as a team. Getting it right, practicing, you still don't know how much effort and late nights we did compared to trying to get £1 billion of assets. So we were really pleased when we got it. One of the really important lessons, though, I think is about expectation management and finding the ways of working. So we did debate whether we were going to fill this with lots of things, and we decided we could be here all day. But this is a lesson, I think, for me that was really important during the crickets that I sponsored for 10 years at NPower, is really trying to work out what's important to you and what's important to the other people, because it always is very different. And things that we think are important to us, the Race for Life and Cancer Research UK didn't think were that important, and vice versa. So we're still using this model to try and map this out. And if you don't use anything like this, I'd really recommend using it when you go into a future negotiation. It also works really well for M&As if you do ever get involved in M&As, because you'll find it's normally very irrational figures. And we've got a couple of things that we're still resolving even now. We're 2.5 months into the since we signed the contract, and we're still trying to sort out things that you should say, well, maybe we should have spotted those in the contract. But it's only when you're actually in the real thick of things that you see the ways of working. And as one of the guys at the ECB once told me, the best time to renew your sponsorship is the day after you've signed the contract, because start working on it, start working on the things that you thought, actually, if only we'd have thought of that. So this is an important model, and we're still working on it in the sponsorship. Getting off to a good start is really important in sponsorship, because although we are purpose and although we do it, I have a really big ROI target on this sponsorship. And luckily for Standard Life, we run a monthly customer survey. We don't need to do another type of tracking study because we've got 13 million customers, and of those customers, because we specialise mainly in workplace pensions, they're nationally representative. So we've got 13 million people we can sample from. And what we found already is that our brand awareness of our customers, knowing that we already do it, is 13%. This was actually done at the start of March survey, so even more with the current activity. So that's a decent start. But the really thing that hit me was when we asked our customers who they thought sponsored Race for Life, they thought Tesco's 10% of them. So that's what you get after 21 years. Sorry about that. But it's also a lesson. It's also a lesson that I learned from NPower, where sponsorship and tracking studies somehow just don't go together. Advertising somehow is a lot more diagnostic and it really brings it out. But for some reason, sponsorship, unless you have a Cornhill or a sponsorship that runs for 20, 30, 40 years, it seems not to pick it up in tracking studies. So it's really important to understand that for me. And when I took this over, I knew that really it was hard to capture it, and I needed to show results. At the end of this, my CEO is going to be asking, what did we get out of Race for Life? How have we got return on investment compared to our advertising? I generally believe it takes at least 3 years, so we have to accelerate that programme. We can't just wait till the start of Race for Life in 18 days. We have to activate it quickly, and we have to seize, exactly as previous speaker said, every opportunity to use every way of leveraging it, because we just can't wait. Otherwise, we will end up coming up at the end of the period and saying, well, we kind of made a little dent in awareness. So what have we been doing? Well, the first thing is colleague engagement. Why? Because if everything else fails, you can say, well, actually, sorry, we didn't get any awareness, but the staff love it. So that's really key. And we have done loads of great things. We've got over 10% of our colleagues actually signed up now because we track it. We've shared cancer stories, very emotional stories across our staff. So we've really tried to bring it to life. One is because if the staff love it, then we know that it gives us a license to keep the sponsorship going for the customers as well. So that's almost like a bedrock. Make the staff love it, and boy, do they love it at Standard Life already. And then we decided that we want to go hit the ground running. So because of the Tesco contract, we couldn't actually start the sponsorship until the 1st of January, even though we did the PR announcement on October the 22nd. So we decided to really turn that into a positive. So we booked every single radio slot midnight on New Year's Eve. So as the clock struck 12, our contract literally came into thing, and we started with a radio ad, which I'd just like to play. It's 30 seconds long, hopefully.
There are some facts we can't run away from. Like 1 in 2 of us will get cancer in our lifetime. But we can come together to beat those odds. Hiya! As the new headline sponsor of Race for Life, Standard Life are joining Cancer Research UK on their mission. Together, we can help to grow Race for Life into an even bigger movement, giving more people a better chance for the future. Standard Life, proud headline sponsor of Race for Life. Shoo-doo-ah!
1 in 2 statistic from Ahmed A.S. et al.
So that broke literally on the first second that the contract came out. So I don't think anyone's ever activated a sponsorship as quick as that. So we're quite proud of it. This is our head office in Edinburgh, which we turned pink at the same time. And it's even the simple things that it goes out on 13 million statements that we're lucky to have. We are doing some of the stuff about technology. So we've just launched user-generated content where people can share a photo of their actual bib with their running number, and we will give them, we'll pick a lucky winner who can win that amount, their equivalent to their race number, in a donation. We're also kind of ambushing, a bit cheeky really, but we're ambushing the marathon this week. So if you did pick up the Metro This morning we couldn't find a copy, so that was probably a good sign, but it's a cover wrap of the Metro today. It's in the Evening Standard, and it's going to be a lot of posters around London. I did see it in the Barbican Tube this morning. So we are trying to be tactical and be hard-hitting. So it's a charity, it's a partnership with the financial services, but boy, are we going to work it hard. And you should see loads of things around this week in London and during the weekend around the London Marathon. We're near the start line. The first one is April the 30th in Stirling, so we're really looking forward to getting that going. And it actually carries on all the way through to the end of July. So lots of branding, lots of activation stuff to come. And over to you.
So the partnership is ever evolving. We're not just sticking with Race for Life. We have worked with Phoenix Group, who are the parent company of Standard Life, to sponsor one of our events, which you see a picture of here. So this is an event called Turn the Tables, where politicians get to interview journalists rather than the other way around. So So Alistair Campbell grilled Emily Maitlis, and Gillian Anderson, who's going to play Emily Maitlis in a show coming out soon, came along to watch, do a little bit of research on the day. So that was sponsored by Phoenix Group. We have a partnership, a Race for Life partnership with the Daily Mail as well. So they came on board as another official sponsor of Race for Life, a tier 2 level. And we worked out a way that we could benefit from a three-way partnership. So we created a tripartite logo, and that's been running with content in the Daily Mail. So that's just a couple of things. Kevin, a few more from you?
Yeah, we're working on an affinity deal, which may sound really strange, but you can transfer pensions relatively easily. So we'll be launching that, and there's a whole pipeline of other sort of social media and other activation that you'll see coming out during the summer. So we're going to end really with the fact that we hope we've inspired you. We hope everyone, you might want to sign up and race. And we've got a little competition. I've got a little goodie bag of merchandise you can win. And if you want to tweet, I hope I've got the right thing, Catherine, but at Think Sponsorship. And if you want to say which was the celebrity who did the voiceover in the radio ad you just heard, Catherine can pick a winner out later on today. So we hope it's been a good presentation for you, and we're just going to leave you with one last.
Yeah, so just to say we're absolutely delighted to be working with Standard Life as our headline sponsor. As we've said, they really care about people's futures, and that's what Race for Life is all about. And we're going to end with our TV ad. And just to let you know that we have today, Kevin, I haven't told you this, we've signed up 154,000 people to Race for Life so far. We don't have our first event until the end of this month, and then it goes all summer through to September. So we are well ahead of target, which is great, as we're still, in the events industry, still coming back from COVID. So we are doing really well, and that's massive thanks to Standard Life for helping us get there. And here's our TV ad for this year.
Race for everyone that can't. Race for Dad. Race for her. Race for life-saving cancer research. Race for life. Race for everyone you love. Who will you race for? Sign up to your local Race for Life event by the 30th of April to get 30% off entry. And together, we will beat cancer.
Thank you very much.
I thought it was a fantastic opening case study, so a huge thank you to Kevin and Caro there. I'd like to invite Sandra back onto stage as well. We've got a good opportunity now. We've got 10 minutes or so for Q&A. I'm sure there will be some questions. So I'll ask anybody to pop their hand up that wants to ask one, but I'll sneak one in myself first just to get things started. Kevin, you mentioned that you thought sponsorship and tracking studies didn't go well together. Sandra's a measurement expert. Interested to know what she thinks of that too.
Do you want me to answer that? Yeah. I think so, because I think trackings are brand tracking studies, and the thing with sponsorship is that it's over time, and a lot of it is subconscious, and you don't actually know why you've changed your behaviour. Because if you connect really well, you will do something and you won't know why. You've not been forced into it, and that's the beauty of sponsorship, is that it's not in your face. An advert comes along and tells you to buy a particular product or anything. What you're doing is you're connecting with them, and they do something subconsciously, and that's why it doesn't tend to show up. But if you then analyse and do some other work and cross-analyse with people's lifestyles and where they've been, and if their behaviour has changed, you'll see that where you've connected with them, with those values, etc., they have changed their behaviour. But you might not be 50% of people know that we are the headline sponsor of X, but when you look at their lifestyles, all of the connections with different areas, then you'll see that they've actually changed their behaviour.
Yeah, I was being slightly mischievous with that thing. So I think luckily with our schools, we'll be able to see Standard Life customers who are aware of the sponsorship and not, and what does that affect the brand image, and and that will be one of the things. I think it's just the awareness score. I think when you're a marketing director, you have to go to the board and you have to say, show me the awareness that's come from there, is always the first question. And that's the difficult one, as you just said, in sponsorship. So it's almost knowing that's going to be the problem question and being able to come up with other ROI and other metrics. And I always remember at NPower, when we sponsored Test Cricket, a lot of people literally said, it's great your sponsorship, because to do a big sponsorship, the government have to approve it. And that came out a lot from people. Literally, people thought you can't be a main sponsor of a main sporting event unless you've gone through not only a pitch, but some sort of like census check or something like that. So you get this beautiful sense that sponsorship works at the sort of the back end of doing it, but it's the activation that really brings that thing around. So it's the brands that are very good at activation, which is what we're trying to do with Cancer Research UK, that you take that base load of they're good because they're sponsoring it into actually they're really good because I've seen the activation at work.
Perfect, thank you. Well, let's open it to the floor. Are there any questions from the audience? There's one just there. Dan's got his work cut out today with these stairs.
Thank you. This is a question for Caro. I was really struck that you advertised when you were really going for finding the new sponsor, and you advertised on LinkedIn. I've not come across that before. I wonder, can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, it was slightly serendipitous because we were looking to get into Marketing Week, and it just became very, very complicated. But I knew that we probably finding sponsorship, finding partners is a bit of luck. It's volume, and you've just got to get loads of people through that initial stage of conversation. Because whilst, I said it was a squeaky bum moment, I had a huge amount of faith in the product. It was an incredible opportunity after 21 years to have it back on the market, but we didn't have long. And so we just wanted to hit as many people as possible, as many eyeballs as possible. So we worked with our social media team to put together that advert. And we did get quite a lot of interest, including Kevin. Lots of people saw it. So it's definitely something that I would repeat.
Great. I think we had
I can send a link later if you want to see it.
We've got a question in the most awkward seat. So receive a microphone.
Yeah, so it's a question for Kevin and Caro. Thank you for the presentation. You had a slide where you laid out your shared purpose very clearly, and I wondered if you could talk a little bit about how you think that's going to help you with measuring the success of the partnership on, I guess, from both sides as it develops.
Can I go first?
Yeah, you're.
So one of the things we have in Standard Life is a return on investment model for all our marketing. So we do actually have to show, as well as all the awareness, we actually have to show that there is some benefit. And the benefit for us is two things. One is about how we can change the brand image and the attributes. So as you can see, they're very passive ones about trust and reliability. So we're pretty clear from some of the deep dive that we've done on key brand attributes that the more active you can make it, the more likely people are to stay with you, but also the more likely you're able to recruit new customers to it. And we're doing it both in a sense of the B2B side, the B2C side, but also B2B. So we're currently pitching for one of the biggest pension funds in the country, which is about 2.5 billion, to put it in context of assets. And the first question we got asked was about Race for Life in the pitch. And the person who we're pitching for is a marathon runner and just knew about it and did it. So how do you quantify that? You can't, but intuitively you feel this pitch might go well for us. So that's the subjective stuff, but the hard ROI is, can we show that the people who are aware of it, it has changed their behaviour. They're either staying with us, they're not moving away from us, they're investing more money, and we have to build it. So although we're very proud of the charity and we're all passionate about sorting cancer out, my dad is suffering from cancer at the moment, so I'm just as passionate as anyone about it. We've also got to be hard-nosed, and we do have an ROI target for this that we do have to hit.
From our perspective, we'll be looking at participants, fundraising, participants who engage through Standard Life through their staff base, experience on the day, and then ultimately it will be about, we're always, Kevin's always talking about renewal in 3 years' time, less than 3 years, actually 3 years minus 5 months. So that will be a real test as well, but we will be talking about that probably every day between now and the end of the contract.
Brilliant, thank you.
Hi there. It's a question for Sandra, but Kevin might have some thoughts as well. You talked about activation budgets being under pressure. Do you think that the additional rights that brands try to negotiate will therefore be in the digital space, because that can be cheaper to implement?
Yep, probably, yes. And that's why I said, and you're saying like return on investment, it's not just about money and KPIs, it is about changing a brand. That's why you go into sponsorship. And I think, yes, people do use a lot of social and digital, but that's good because also you can target it so well and you can do it really, really closely. You can now segment your audience and only talk to the people you need to do. Don't waste money. And suppose in that way it's cheaper, but it's also quite effective. So a lot of people will do that, but you've got to go back, right back to those objectives. Every single time you do anything, before you spend any money, say, why am I doing this? Will it help me achieve my objectives? And I think that's the crucial element. And I think, as you say, if rights holders are giving more activation areas, they've just got to realise that they'll get more back as well. The same as you've just said, these are both the same objectives. And therefore, they're both looking to work as partners. And I think that's the crucial word of working as partners, having the same objectives and saying, look, I'll give you an extra this because I know that Kevin's going to really work on it and it's going to do me good as well. And I think that's always important.
Okay, we've probably only got time for one or two more questions. So there's one quite close there, Dan. If you...
Hi, Kevin. Obviously, we know each other, but just intrigued, and also for the audience. So if you take 15 years ago, it was sponsorship. Now it's partnerships. And effectively, just asking you, coming back on the horse, if you like, and being a practitioner of sponsorship in this case, have you seen any sort of significant changes in terms of the role and how it impacts on the company in terms of the whole marketing mix, whether you call it sponsorship or partnerships?
Oh, really good question. I think there is a sense that most organisations have really brought purpose into the organisation now. So it's about recruitment, especially at the moment. It's about retention. It's about people wanting to feel part of a great company. And I think if we turned up and said, we've got amazing sponsorship doing the Lions again, I don't think it would have had the same impact internally. And I think we're seeing sort of grey areas now where partnership sponsorship is blending in with our social purpose team and our HR team, and everything's sort of a lot more blended than I think, whereas it used to be with sponsorship, it's like that's set, it's in a silo and you report. Now we talk about Race for Life in HR meetings, how many people are doing it, can we get more people involved, can we get volunteers if people don't want to race? So I think it's become, as you said, more part of less siloed as sponsorship and partnership sponsorship. If you do a core sponsorship, you've almost got to have a purpose CSR part of it. When I did cricket years and years ago, we did something called urban cricket, which was getting people in the centre of inner city estates. In fact, we did it in Brixton to play cricket because it was seen as a rural middle class game. So we were trying to do purpose then, but we probably didn't really understand what it meant. And I think partnerships now and sponsorship I think it's a good question, but I think it's just fluid now. I think they just interconnect with each other.
Can I just say something from a charity perspective as well? Because obviously we're selling a sponsorship proposition, but what I will always talk about partnership, because it's always got to be mutually beneficial. We want it to go right across the business. We're not going to be successful if we aren't thinking about every way of activating, particularly when you're talking about something that is so purposeful. And that's the only way that I think we can be successful, whether it's Stand Up to Cancer or Race for Life or any of our other propositions. It's got to be, you know, depth and breadth.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Well, reluctantly, but in the interest of time and sticking to the time framework for the day, I'll probably have to draw this discussion to a close, but I'll just double check. I mean, Kevin, Caro, I think you're here all day. Sandra's here till lunchtime. So there is an opportunity, if you have questions, to just ask them on a one-to-one basis with the gang. But I hope you'll all join me in a huge round of applause and thank you for a fascinating opening segment.
Thank you. Thanks.
Just stay there for a sec. And we are transitioning straight into our first networking break, which is our speed sponsorship, which is a bit like speed dating, but for sponsorship. So we've worked hard for the title there. Now, you'll see on your badges, various bits of information have been printed. If you chose your breakout sections are on your badge. Underneath that is your networking group. So it will be a letter somewhere between A and R. So we have sort of booked you onto a table where you'll have your coffee and your break with other like-minded folk that you identified you'd like to meet in your registration process. It's like a giant wedding planning scenario. But to smoothly guide you, I've got my wonderful team in and around here to help guide us into place. If you are in zones A to D, can I ask that you might stand up now, make your way to the front of the theatre and follow my colleague D, is it? Waving Dan, who is going to escort you down to your zone area.